certainly was held in high regard, yeah.
I like the piece, can I? I think it's important to let you know that he will never be forgotten. As I'm sure you're aware, it's been an unforgiving summer, and unfortunately Dan paid the ultimate price. Oz said, I'm currently operating where Dan passed, and there was not one man in his battle group that didn't know him, and his work here was exceptional, saving lives daily in the harshest of conditions, because I think at that point it was about 48, 50 degree heat.
In August, Oz worked with the 2 Rifles battle group to clear Pharmacy Road, a key supply route. It was an extremely dangerous operation. 2 booby-trapped vehicles blocked the road, and the narrow alleyways around were littered with IEDs.
The heat was particularly tough, I think, quite gruelling. I know he's tired because you just know when you know somebody, and you can just see it in his face.
In just 24 hours, Oz cleared 31 bombs, often by fingertip search. Pharmacy Road was reopened.
Even now, they're just really, really hard to look at,
But there was no let-up for Oz. He went from one task to another. Oz said the lack of helicopters and poorly equipped vehicles made his job more difficult and dangerous. While most soldiers would return for breaks to Bastion, the main camp, Oz didn't.
He just felt that he didn't have those regular breaks, and there wasn't anybody there kind of letting him off the hook. There was nobody there thinking bigger picture.
Colonel Stuart Tootle commanded 3 Power Regiment during some of the fiercest fighting in Helmand. He resigned from the army in 2007 after voicing concerns about the welfare of his soldiers.
Soldiers like Oz will push themselves and will keep going out and keep stepping onto the plate, because that's what British soldiers do.
What's the danger if they don't get those breaks? What could happen?
On the one hand, they'll become increasingly more tired, and so consequently they won't be as fresh as they were at the start of an operation. Their performance could degrade, they'll be less alert, and they might miss things. And so that's why risk increases. And that means that needs to be monitored in such a way that as troops become more tired, that they are given a break. Now, often that break may only be back in Camp Bastion, but again, 2 or 3 days back in Camp Bastion makes the world of difference to someone who's been in the line doing these high-risk tasks for several weeks.
The Army has guidelines about rest breaks and length of tours, but admits they've been broken at times. They told us they are now taking steps to address the situation. I question whether the Ministry of Defence is fulfilling its duty of care to soldiers like Oz. Its own research shows that fewer breaks leave soldiers more susceptible to combat stress and PTSD. Even the Army's most senior bomb disposal officer is worried.
I'm very concerned that, in the longer term, some of my people that have done phenomenally difficult and dangerous work in Afghanistan, may pay a deeper psychological price for the work that they've conducted. We're about to kick off a more detailed study looking at the psychological impacts of these operations, because we've got a duty of care. We owe it to these people to do the best we can.
By late October, Oz had still not had a rest break. He'd defused hundreds of IEDs. 72 hours before he was due to come home, he called me.
He was particularly tired. He'd been up for about 4 days, hadn't really slept. He just said, I can't wait for Saturday. When I get off that plane, you are definitely going to pick us up, aren't you? That's all I want to see is just you. When I get off that plane, that is all I want. That's the only thing that I've got in my mind.
I had a bad feeling after that call. It was the last time I ever heard his voice.
I heard the knock on the door that is directly below the window of my bedroom, and looked down and saw two guys in green kit with green lids. I said, "Oh God, no, you know, God." And that's when I absolutely physically knew for sure that he was dead. I can't get past that. Literally at the 11th hour, at the very last job, I really thought we were home free.
Instead of celebrating his safe return, I was in Wootton Bassett, keeping a promise I'd made to my husband.
I remember having the conversation with Oz when he phoned me up really late at night after it and said, "You know, you better be there when I'm there." And he said, "I hope that I don't want my wife standing there, you know, in bits on the floor. I want you to be absolutely proud of me and know, you know, how hard I've worked, and I want you to be able to stand there and be appreciative and show your love for me and be as positive as you can about what I've achieved and what I've done."
Oz lived and stood for something he believed in. And in the end, he paid the ultimate sacrifice for those beliefs.
The high-threat IED operators are few in number, but are of vital importance in Afghanistan, where IEDs are the first line of attack. Last October, Oz's close friend, Captain Daniel Reid, was injured in a bomb blast which killed a member of his team. In spite of those injuries, he rejoined his team in December. In January, Dan was killed defusing a device. He was the fourth elite bomb disposal expert to die within 15 months. A fifth survived, but had both legs blown off. While I've been making this programme, a senior military officer has told us that at the start of the war in Afghanistan, only limited consideration was given to the threat of IEDs. He said they were not thought to be an immediate problem. The MOD told us it could not reasonably have been expected to predict the surge in the use of IEDs.
You know, Oz signed up, but he really didn't sign up to get absolutely hammered as he was on that tour and not get his R&R on time. And I feel slightly shortchanged because he signed up, but he didn't sign up for that, and I didn't.
I'm very concerned, you know, as their head of trade, of the pressures that they are facing in Afghanistan. We are seeking now to bring people back into high-threat IED operations that have been out for some time. We are looking at more senior officers becoming involved in this. We've broadened our training and selection, but it will take some time before these measures can come into play. And what it does mean is it means the existing cohorts are going to be under pressure. I'm very concerned about that.
In March, the special bravery demanded of the bomb disposal team was publicly recognised. I was there to receive Oz's George Cross citation. Captain Daniel Shepherd was awarded the George Medal, and collecting his George Cross citation in person was Staff Sergeant Kim Hughes.
I think it really does send a clear message that they are exceptional operators, and certainly they definitely went beyond the call of duty.
Making this programme has confirmed what Oz told me, that the Army was asking far too much of its bomb disposal experts in Afghanistan. I expect the MOD to keep its promise to me to ensure better support for those who follow in their footsteps.
Christina Schmidt there, and the MOD tells us that since her husband's death last October, it has doubled the number of high-threat bomb disposal teams in Afghanistan. But since the interview he gave us, Colonel Bob Seddon has tendered his resignation as head of the Army's bomb squad. He cites as one of the reasons his concern over the welfare of high-threat teams in Afghanistan. We'll be back on June the 7th to ask how our biggest football team was taken into the red by its American owners, whose business empire stands on a growing mountain of debt.
Next year on BBC One and the BBC HD channel, The Business of Fashion with Joe Malone, living more high street dreams.